Picture this. It is a blistering June morning in Washington, District of Columbia. The humidity is thick in the air, the city's iconic monuments shimmer in the heat, and the world's eyes are fixed on Pennsylvania Avenue. Tanks, each weighing dozens of tons, crawl slowly down the avenue, their tracks clattering over freshly laid steel plates meant to protect the century-old infrastructure beneath. Overhead, a phalanx of fighter jets splits the sky, leaving white trails in their wake. Soldiers, tens of thousands of them, march in lockstep, their uniforms crisp, their faces solemn. The crowd gathered is immense, but not all are there to celebrate. For many, this day, marking the 250th birthday of the United States Army, and by chance President Donald Trump's 79th birthday, has become a line in the sand. Instead of unity, the nation is witnessing the most massive wave of dissent in a generation. From Maine's rocky coasts to the sun-baked streets of San Diego, millions have poured into public squares and city centers. They wave homemade banners, chant slogans, and demand that the nation remember its founding creed, "No Kings." This is not just another protest. It is, by all accounts, the largest coordinated mass demonstration against the display of military power on American soil in modern history. So why has this parade, on what should be an occasion for national pride, triggered such a profound backlash? What is really at stake, and why has the debate over tanks and flyovers become a flashpoint for the very soul of American democracy? To unravel this, we must understand the long and complicated history of military parades in the United States. These events are not new. After the American Revolution, George Washington himself presided over victory marches, but even then, there was unease about celebrating military might too ostentatiously. In May of the year 1865, following the end of the Civil War, the Union Army's Grand Review in Washington was a spectacle of national healing and pride, bringing together thousands of victorious soldiers as the weary nation tried to knit itself back together. Decades later, in the summer of 1991, the National Victory Celebration marked the end of the Gulf War, with an estimated 800,000 attendees in the capital alone. Perhaps most importantly, though, public sentiment has shifted. As Dr. Mark Thompson, a renowned military historian, explains, military parades have a dual legacy. They can inspire a sense of shared identity and purpose, but they can also evoke memories of authoritarian displays. In an era of sharp political polarization, the meaning of such spectacles is deeply contested. This tension is especially acute in the United States, a country founded in rebellion against monarchy and the militarization of society. That brings us to this present. The political climate could not be more charged. In the months leading up to the parade, the Trump administration enacted a wave of executive orders, targeting immigration, restricting asylum, and expanding deportations. Thousands of families have been separated at the southern border. In city after city, especially Los Angeles, Chicago, and Atlanta, protests against immigration raids have erupted, only to be met with deployments of National Guard troops and, in some cases, active-duty Marines. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a vocal critic, condemned the decision to send military forces into Los Angeles, calling it a brazen abuse of power. Lawsuits and emergency court orders soon followed, with the American Civil Liberties Union and other advocacy groups arguing that the president had overstepped his constitutional authority. All of this set the stage for the emergence of the No Kings movement. Its name is a direct reference to the founding values of the United States, values enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, which rejected monarchy and the concentration of power in a single ruler. The movement's leaders, many of whom are veterans of previous campaigns for civil rights and immigrant justice, see the parade not as a tribute to the military, but as a dangerous flirtation with authoritarianism. On the movement's website, the message is unambiguous. In America, we don't do kings. They've defied our courts, deported Americans, disappeared people off the streets, attacked our civil rights, and slashed our services. No thrones, no crowns, no kings. At the heart of the protest is a fear that the parade is not just about honoring soldiers, but about sending a message that military might is the ultimate arbiter of political power. Dr. Sarah Hansen, a prominent political scientist, told reporters, "The No Kings protests reflect a deep crisis of legitimacy for the Trump administration. People are afraid that the basic norms of democracy are being eroded, replaced by rule through intimidation and spectacle." The scale of the protests is staggering. Over 2,000 separate demonstrations have been organized across all 50 states. In Philadelphia, protesters staged a reading of the Declaration of Independence on the steps of Independence Hall. followed by a mock trial in which activists, lawyers, and historians accused the administration of violating constitutional principles. In Chicago, a coalition of labor unions, immigrant rights organizations, and student groups marched peacefully from Grant Park to the federal courthouse, bearing banners reading, "Democracy, not autocracy." In the nation's capital itself, the atmosphere is electric. While official permits for protests near the parade route were denied on national security grounds, activists have found creative ways to make their voices heard. Veterans groups, many of whom have refused to march in the parade, instead organized alternative events throughout the city. One group held a solemn vigil at Arlington National Cemetery, laying wreaths in memory of those who fought not for a king, but for a republic. The protests have not gone uncontested. Supporters of the president, many waving American flags and wearing red, white, and blue, have staged counter-rallies. For them, the parade is a rightful tribute to the military's sacrifices and a long-overdue affirmation of national pride. "This is about honoring our troops, plain and simple," said Robert Jones, a community leader from Ohio. "We should not be ashamed of our strength." Some of these counter-protests were organized by groups with close ties to nationalist movements, raising concerns about the potential for violence. In response, the city deployed thousands of police officers, as well as federal agents, to maintain order. The Transportation Security Administration implemented enhanced screening at airports, deploying K-9 units and using advanced detection technology, leading to long lines and delays that frustrated travelers and raised questions about the balance between security and civil liberties. The economic impact has also been significant. In downtown Washington, dozens of small businesses closed for the weekend, citing security concerns and the risk of property damage. Yet other stores saw a surge in customers buying protest-related merchandise, T-shirts, signs, and even themed face masks. City councils across the country have debated who should pay for the costs of extra security, cleanup, and infrastructure repairs. The District of Columbia City Council formally requested that the federal government cover all parade-related expenses, citing the extraordinary nature of the event and the burden placed on local resources. Legal experts predict that this fight over funding could end up in the courts, setting important precedents for future federal-municipal relations. At the parade itself, the spectacle is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. The flyover features not only state-of-the-art B-2 Spirit stealth bombers and Apache helicopters, but also lovingly restored World War II-era aircraft, their engines rumbling like ghosts from an earlier age. Interactive exhibits organized by the United States Army Center of Military History showcase the evolution of military technology, from muskets and sabers to drones and cyber warfare. Virtual reality stations invite children to experience history, even as parents debate the message such displays are sending. Yet for all the pageantry, the underlying tension is never far from the surface. As the president delivers his speech, extolling the virtues of strength and resolve, the chants of protesters, sometimes blocks away, sometimes just across the barricades, are clearly audible. "No more kings," they shout. "This is our America." The legal framework surrounding these protests is complex. The First Amendment guarantees the right to free speech and assembly, but those rights are not absolute. As Dr. Emily Carter, a constitutional law scholar, notes, the government has a legitimate interest in maintaining public order, but any restrictions on protest activity must be narrowly tailored and avoid suppressing legitimate dissent. In practice, this means that while authorities can impose restrictions on time, place, and manner, they cannot simply silence opposition because it is inconvenient or unpopular. Civil liberties organizations, particularly the American Civil Liberties Union, have provided legal observers at protest sites, distributed Know Your Rights pamphlets, and even offered on-the-spot legal counseling for those detained or threatened with arrest. Maria Rodriguez, an immigration rights activist, told a reporter, "This moment is about refusing to be silent, no matter how powerful the opposition seems. We are here because we believe in a better America, one where everyone's rights are respected." Digital activism has played a key role as well. Social media campaigns, using hashtags like #NoKings and #DemocracyNow, have reached tens of millions, thanks to sophisticated targeting strategies and partnerships with popular influencers. Many young people, who may have never attended a protest before, found their way to local rallies through online organizing platforms and virtual town halls. The No Kings movement's Legal Defense Fund, launched only days before the parade, quickly amassed millions of dollars in donations, underscoring the breadth of support for the right to protest. As the sun sets on this extraordinary weekend, both sides are left wondering, what comes next? The country stands at a historic crossroads. Experts warn that the decisions made in the coming weeks by protest leaders, elected officials, and ordinary citizens will shape the trajectory of American democracy for years, if not decades, to come. Let's examine the possible paths forward. First, the No Kings movement could ignite a new era of civic engagement. Dr. Sarah Hansen predicts that if the energy and momentum are maintained, we could see a surge in voter turnout, a wave of new candidates, many of them veterans of protest organizing, running for office at every level, from school boards to Congress. Movements like this can transform the political landscape, she says. Just as the civil rights protests of the 1960s led to landmark legislation, today's demonstrations could produce enduring change. Already there are signs of coalition building. Labor unions, environmentalists, and faith-based organizations have joined forces with immigrant rights groups to demand comprehensive reforms, not only on military spending, but also on healthcare, education, and social services. In cities like Minneapolis and Seattle, protest leaders are working with local officials to draft people's budgets, redirecting funds from police and military contracts to mental health and community programs. However, the risks are real. Movements can fracture under the weight of internal disagreements, fatigue, or outside pressure. The federal government has signaled its willingness to use force, and some lawmakers are proposing new restrictions on public assembly, measures that civil liberties groups warn could undermine the very foundations of free expression. In the past, mass movements have sometimes fizzled when their goals became diffuse or their leaders turned on one another. The challenge for the No Kings movement will be to maintain unity and clarity of purpose in the face of adversity. Some members of Congress, responding to the protests, have already introduced bills calling for increased transparency in military budgeting, audits of defense contractors, and a reevaluation of the balance between security and civil liberties. Veterans groups, many of whom boycotted the parade, are advocating for better health care, housing, and job training for returning soldiers. In one widely shared open letter, a coalition of retired generals argued that true strength is measured not just by weapons, but by the way a society cares for its most vulnerable. But there is also this potential for backlash. Conservative commentators, talk radio hosts, and some elected officials have denounced the protests as unpatriotic, demanding even more displays of military power and stiffer penalties for those who disrupt public order. In online forums and cable news segments, the debate has grown increasingly heated, with each side accusing the other of betraying American values. This polarization, if left unchecked, could further erode trust in institutions and make compromise ever more elusive. A third scenario is that the protests will gradually slip from the headlines, their impact limited to symbolic gestures and fleeting moments of solidarity. History is full of examples of movements that burned bright but faded quickly. The anti-nuclear marches of the 1980s, the Occupy Wall Street encampments in the early 2010s. Yet, even movements that do not achieve their immediate goals can plant the seeds of future change. The language, symbols, and networks forged in moments of resistance often inspire new generations to take up the cause. So, what does all of this mean for you, the person watching or listening at home? First, it is a powerful reminder that democracy is not a spectator sport. Whether you support or oppose the No Kings movement, the lesson is clear. History is written not only by presidents and generals, but by millions of ordinary people who refuse to accept the world as it is. If you are worried about rising polarization, now is the time to get involved. Attend a city council meeting, volunteer at a local food bank, organize a discussion at your workplace or school about military spending, veterans issues, or civil liberties. The avenues for civic engagement are as diverse as the nation itself. If you care about protecting your rights, educate yourself about the law. The American Civil Liberties Union and similar organizations offer online workshops, printable guides, and even smartphone apps to help you understand your rights when protesting or interacting with law enforcement. Knowledge is power, and collective action is most effective when informed and strategic. For those who want to make a difference but are unsure where to start, the experience of the No Kings movement offers practical lessons. Start small, join a local chapter, participate in a virtual town hall, or donate to a legal defense fund. Connect with others who share your concerns, but also seek out dialogue with those who see things differently. Democracy thrives on debate, not dogma. Finally, let us reflect on a detail that captures the essence of this moment: the steel plates laid beneath the parade route. They are a literal and metaphorical reminder of the weight of history that every society must bear. As Dr. Mark Thompson observed, every generation is called upon to decide what kind of nation it wants to be. Will we celebrate power for its own sake, or will we use it to build a more just and inclusive society? So, what role will you play? Will you be a bystander, watching as the parade passes by, indifferent to the struggles unfolding in the streets? Or will you step forward, add your voice to the chorus, demanding accountability, dignity, and democracy? If this analysis has opened your eyes or sparked new questions, please subscribe, leave a comment below, and share this video with friends and family. Here on this channel, we are committed to exploring the forces shaping our world: economics, technology, politics, and the ever-evolving story of democracy itself.